this morning has been very important. I think that design is very important, and we've been listening to you and reflecting a lot. I'm hoping that we could engage you in this conversation, and to do so, I think that we need to get to know each other a little better before that you start engage with all these experts. So maybe can I ask you to stand up? And let's see if we could fast forward some team building here so that you warm up so that you don't feel scared when that catch box arrives to you and you will ask a question. So one of the things that where we warm up, so I want you to think about if you're an introvert or an extrovert. If you're an introvert, you will lean in this direction, and extrovert this direction. Okay, go ahead. Introvert and extrovert. Lean a little bit, more visible. You cannot stand like that. That's Swedish, okay?
Should we lean?
Okay.
I don't know.
Which way was which again?
So people, hey. So people who think that designers are either introverts or extroverts, I could tell that this room is filled of both. And if I was your boss, I assume a lot of you would have leaned towards extrovert, because that's a little bit more nicer in the business world, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so can you do it again, please? The real one, extrovert, introvert. Good. Some of you are touching each other. That's important information, okay? Introvert meets extrovert. Good to know. Okay, another reflection that I had on you saying no was that I think we should say yes. So we have different, no.
No.
No, okay. And the reason why I wanted to say yes is because then the next great idea will come. So sometimes we need to do boring things, because then we create a culture of yes and no. So I'm thinking, who of you think that we should say no more? And who of you think we should say yes more? No? Yes.
What about maybe?
No maybes.
Are you saying no or yes?
Okay, interesting. Now you want to, start talking to each other, don't you? But okay, you can sit down. This was the warm-up. Do you feel that you are now prepared to ask them some questions?
Where's the lady? Is it Linda?
Good.
Where's Linda? The lady who was with you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'll start. And I was thinking, so one of the themes were about, how you can make organizations more brave. And I didn't really get all the answers. I would like all of you to reflect a little bit. How do you make people more brave?
Oh, you have one. I have one.
Who? You don't know?
Okay.
Yeah, sure. You be brave.
Yes?
Yeah, I'll be brave. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say meet them in the middle, because everyone has certain fears that are very real, and because that fear is real, you have to acknowledge it. So meet them somewhere in the middle with how to make that leap to be brave, because we all need help on a regular basis. So be helpful.
And is there a way where you could, push that a little bit?
In all honesty, I think that looks different across the board. Every situation is going to be a little bit different. I would focus on the open-mindedness and the assistance rather than the medium.
So I think for me, particularly with financial services organizations, they tend to be quite risk averse because that's their business. They need to manage risk. So I think you need to explain what the risk of not doing it is to convince them how to be motivated to be brave. And then it's baby steps. You've got to hold them by the hand or go side by side, metaphorically, of course, to help them understand how they do that. Because particularly large banks and retailers as well, they tend to think, well, okay, what happens? What's going to happen? There's some uncertainty here. You've got to lay it out, exactly what's going to happen, what the stages of the process are, and why it's important that they do it, because the risk is this if they don't.
I remember when I was in India once, and if a newspaper comes your way, you just read it from start to finish. So I read the business page, and there was an interview with a business guru who, some of the ideas he had just made me really smile. Of course, I'm coming from a Buddhist background rather than a business background. But I love the way he said, for example, instead of having a chief executive officer, you should have a chief destructive officer. Because the goal nowadays, things are changing so fast, you need someone to destroy the company before the economy does, yeah? And he much preferred people who could say on their CV, I destroyed, a company that after making $1 million, rather than I met my sales targets for 17 years on the run, yeah? So I think I'd like to suggest that, again, the chaos side, which as a Buddhist I'm more in tune with than the business side. So we need more chief destructive officers in our companies and in our situations.
That's a great. How many of you would like to hire any of them? A chief, yeah? Great.
Yeah, from my side, it's more like we try to make people brave in our company, not dismissing what they have already. So instead of coming up with new preaches of new methods or new taglines, we come up with results. We work, and then people ask us, okay, what is that? Is service design? Is it design thinking? What is that? So it's work, and it's a result. So instead of coming up with a title and try to preach ideas new, like we simply don't dismiss what they have done and say, no, we are just doing like you guys are doing, but a bit different. So just join us. Let's make things up. So it's like empowering them, like with not dismissing what they have.
Saying yes.
Exactly. Saying as well.
So is then should you work in all rooms? You said you cannot design everything. Do you all agree on that, or what's your point? Is design for the boardroom? You showed a boardroom.
I say yes. I think design is for all places, all spaces. But it will be different versions of design. I think it'll look quite different depending upon the environment. But it's all design to me. And I don't get caught too much up in categories and placement of things and ideas. It's more about where the source of origination, where that comes from. And the act of creativity that we spoke to, that happens everywhere with everyone at all times. So.
I think at the end of the day, whatever you design, it's a proposal that you give, and then they start a dialogue with the user. So like you design a table that serves to hold the pointer, but then, I don't know, I go and put my feet on that, or going to put my notebook. So at the end of the day, it's a dialogue that happens. So whatever intention you have, you're never gonna achieve this purpose together. So it's like the user complements it.
So it sounds so easy. It sounds like, and I'm not sure about you, but it's not always easy. Do you have examples of, a room where you cannot just start a conversation, or somewhere where design was not the solution? It's always working for you?
I think it's always available to work. I don't know that it's always working. And it might sound easy. I always say the adage is that it's usually quite simple. It's just never easy. An instance where it didn't work. I have so many of those, but it would be quite embarrassing.
But it would be, we would like to learn, don't we? We don't want to make the same mistakes as you already done.
Sure.
We can make new ones.
Yeah. I'll speak as specific as I can, but mildly vague to speak to the gentleman from HSBC. To his point, I've designed the wrong brief, and therefore I failed. I didn't deliver in my talk a clear value proposition in the language of my audience, and rightfully so, that idea did not go any further. I think if I would have implemented a better design in my argument, a better design in my visualization, a better design in my plan for implementation, there's opportunity there. But I dropped the ball on that one. I won't say what that one is, but happens.
Great advice.
Yeah.
And have you done any mistakes?
Well, I mentioned briefly that we worked in Asia and designed a business banking concept where the predominant color was black. And we did it in China, and we were told immediately that customers didn't want to come into the branch because black signifies death in China in particular. And because we didn't listen to the customer, we didn't do our research, we weren't clear about what we wanted, and my mistake, and I learned a lot from this, I didn't listen to the local market. And it's critical that logic and common sense over design is the way to work.
Interesting. So, I was supposed to get some questions here. It's apparently not working. Okay, so the warm-up thing was a mistake from my side. Didn't really warm you up, or maybe you're not just asking the questions on Twitter. And there's another thought I had, you're also the experts here. So we were thinking, why don't we ask you a couple of questions, since you're not asking them any? Do you have a question for them? I mean, you have a group of experts here. You're allowed to ask them anything. What do you want to know?
I'd like to know about speed in the various cultures that you work in. Because I come from a situation of extreme slowness, yeah? Extreme, I mean extreme slowness. And at the same time, I recognize that the culture that I'm living in the contemporary culture, is like high speed, super fast. And I'd like to know any experiences or any insights from your side, business experiences, where speeds are recognized and are important, and you have to negotiate different kinds of speeds. I hope that's not too kind of abstract, but maybe someone will pick it up and run with it.
Yeah, is there anyone who would like to answer that? Experience from speed in your organizations.
How fast can you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Okay, come on, take it.
Okay.
I love that.
So you take it and you get a response. What is your reflection on speed?
Yeah, thank you for the question. No, but I think speed is promoted. At least I'm from a very big organization, and speed is good. Quality is not as important as long as you're on time. You can be in time for a meeting, but you don't really had to have done all the thinking before you came there.
So speed is more important than quality.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean it's not fun to say, but that's often
That's
the
a
case.
contrast to a few of the talks yesterday. Anyone who want to add anything on that? Is speed more important than quality? Yeah, there is a hand over there. Can you throw the catch box? Throw. Okay, you would like to start first and then in the back.
Yeah, okay.
You're too slow.
All right, this was fun. In what I do, actually, visualizing things very fast, speed is very important. When an idea, together with clients or with colleagues, we get an idea, visualizing that idea is very important. That's how I relate it to a question with speed. So creating things, bringing things to life as soon as possible to have a common ground to work on, it's important to catch that moment. That's speed for me.
And what would happen if you would have to slow down? What would happen with the design?
If I would have to slow down, I don't know, I just drop the flow and it will be more it will be more rational design and not follow the heart and the emotional part of it. You always get back to the rational part later, but it's good to use that flow, that energy in the room that you have.
So speed is the key to get to the emotional parts of design.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm getting kind of deep here, but I don't know.
We like deep. So there's a hand at the back. Can you throw it back?
No, I'm faster.
Okay, you first.
So I wanted to relate to one concept that, and I'm giving a shout out to Adam and the Jam community here, that one of the things we're going for is, for example, impossible deadlines. So you're actually forcing people to stop thinking and start doing and not overthink and overcomplicate. That's exactly what you're referring to. You're not getting into statistics and is it probable, but you have to react and basically pull out what you have, your gut feeling, and do that. And in that sense, I feel that the speed actually does help a lot in getting things going.
Good point.
And when we're throwing it to the back, to the man in the back, what's your reflection when you hear them listening to speed is something that actually makes them better?
I completely accept that speed is going to release things in people, yeah. And I think at a certain level of design and making things happen, it's essential because it frees people up. I was thinking more in terms of not so much of slowness, but extreme slowness, yeah. To the point where I don't even want to try and define what I mean by extreme slowness. But I guess in a similar way of the chief destructive officer, can companies be so slow that they collapse and then something still comes out of that space? Well, we should go with the...
Yeah, we have a response.
Yeah, I think maybe the discussion is not about how fast or how slow. That's perfectly all right. I think the discussion should be about direction. I think too many times we are running very fast in all the wrong directions, and you can be extremely slow as well, and also go in the wrong direction. I think let's focus on the direction, which is, I think, what we are losing in a lot of the activities that we do, and also in the business as well.
So direction, how important is that?
I don't know. I like taking direction and speed together. I like to do bike rides, like long bike rides, like 700 kilometers, for example. And you, of course, you cannot have the same pace the whole time. And it depends on your speed and your direction. You kind of have a completely different experience of the whole bike path. So I think it's the same for when you're dealing with a project. When you slow down, you can see better the details of the landscape, and you may have like a moment of collapsing, of stopping, and then have an entire reflection of what you're doing and so on. And then maybe change your direction because you have the chance to do so. When you're super fast, you may skip some of the roads, the side roads that you could have taken on your way. So I think somehow that's how I relate to that topic.
So you need to be conscious about time then.
Exactly.
In your projects. Okay, do you have any other questions for the audience? I mean, to the panel over here?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are companies and organizations that deal with clients, what's the most frustrating thing you find about dealing with clients?
What's the most frustrating thing dealing with clients? Who wants to respond? Who is brave enough?
And how do you deal with it? What are the solutions you come up with to deal with clients who can frustrate you?
All of these people have perfect clients.
Obviously,
yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Pay on time, clear brief.
Yes, perfect briefs, everything is going on, you know, there's no problems at all. You're not frustrated. Oh, here's someone.
Hallelujah, thank you.
Well, it sort of goes back to the speed question, because I work in healthcare, and there's always a conflict. If the healthcare system of your country sets itself an ambition to, for example, be paperless by 2020, or you know, to move in a different direction, but the pace of change in such a big organization and the fear in such an industry actually makes it very difficult to get the momentum and get the speed that you need in order to make those changes.
Interesting. More frustrations? Okay, throw.
Hi. I think language is a different thing, because from my experience, a lot of people talk about the same things but mean completely different things.
And how can you work on that?
You have to ask them what they mean.
They have to ask them what they mean.
We even did an exercise in our company. A lot of people were talking about the same thing, and we had a workshop about, okay, what does this really mean to you? And everyone described totally different things.
Totally different things. So the importance of language.
Language in terms of, you didn't mean Spanish versions, you mean terminology.
Service design, what's service design?
Exactly right.
Semantics.
What's service design? Yeah. There was another hand in the back. Who was it? Yep. Throw.
Isn't that great? I love it.
Yeah, I think one of the most frustrating things about customers is that they pay a lot of money for your opinions. They want your expertise. They spend a lot of time educating you about their business. And then at the end of the day, when you present them with your design, they still sort of think, well, we still know better than you do of what we actually want.
Excellent
and
point.
Then you still try to somehow convince them that I actually do have a better idea for you, and you should try this out. I think that's one of the...
What's your response to that?
I think my frustration sometimes when I was a client was I found some agencies weren't willing to be self-critical. Some of them were a little bit lost in design show business and a little bit, I've given birth to this design, and a little bit precious. But I think a lot of it was because, as a client, being critical about myself, I wasn't clear what I wanted. And the designers came up with a fabulous design, it looked brilliant, but didn't achieve the brief. And there's another part, which I think is where you're coming from. You'd done a great job, you'd met the brief, but the client had changed their mind and wasn't clear about what they wanted. And I think that's a frustration I think we've all gone through. Me, now being as a supplier as opposed to a client, I think if I ever became a client again, I think I'd be have far more humility and listening more to my agency than the value they can deliver as well. I think the other thing, we talked about speed and direction. A story that somebody told me last week was, everybody know who Alice in Wonderland is? So Alice in Wonderland goes to a crossroads and she talks to the Cheshire cat who's in the tree. She says, which road do I take? And the cat turns around, rubs his whiskers, very much like me. It depends where you want to go. So I think my point is here, direction is clear, but what is the end result that the client is looking for? And I think your point is asking questions, trying to understand what the brief is. Don't assume their language is the same as yours. It's critical.
It's critical.
Absolutely critical.
So, yeah, I agree. So I'm thinking, my theme was where can we use service design? And I know that your immediate response will be everywhere. So let's elaborate a little bit on that. How big is design? How important is it? Should I, as a mother, apply service design methods with my kids, or am I already doing it? And this question is for like the full panel, everyone to respond. How big should we make it? Could we design a society? Could design be the philosophy or the attitude of a society? Or how big should we make it? It's free for everyone to respond.
It's quite tricky because every time you give a name to something, every time you label it and place it impose it as a new system, as a new frame that people should work, you kind of dismiss everything that was before there. It's kind of when you try to redesign the system of education, for example, you just because people are unhappy about the educational system, you just propose another educational system that people are going to be unhappy about. So I really believe that this kind of change, this kind of frame, it's much more decentralized in the sense of people reflecting about what they are facing and define how they should work indirectly. Like when you take a teamwork, like in a company, managers, they try to frame a software. Imagine that the team is a hardware, and the managers try to define a software that they can run there, instead of like trying to design the software on the top of the hardware that they have. So trying to find methods that could work, make these people work together by empowering individuals and make them like run autonomically.
Yeah, here. Where's the catch box? Yeah, throw it. Like, exactly. Woo! It is very soft.
I'd sue. Yeah.
Yes, I think we should do it, but I think we should do it secretly.
We should do it secretly?
Yes, I think service design should not become like a buzzword that the wrong people walk away with, but we just should take over the world without proclaiming ourselves as taking over the world.
So, okay, please stop make anything on Twitter. We just became a secret force so that we don't make service design into a buzzword is a solution. We could also, we can add this question to how big can we make it. How can governments make changes to improve quality of life? When change is hard and doesn't fit into a 4-year. I mean, I think this is really reflection to your extreme slowness.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. I really don't know how.
Do they need secret designers?
Well, actually, the question of secrecy is much more interesting to me. In the Buddhist tantric path, of course, secrecy is an essential holder for very powerful and subtle practices, yeah? And the whole notion of using buzzwords can become very destabilizing and kind of habitual, and the words kind of fill the space of your own practice with the words, yeah? So I think being secret, being kind of quiet and invisible with whatever design, however you understand design, is an essential element in any kind of genuine creative life. And also these are just words as well. Design could be understood in terms of ethics, yeah? In which case, then of course, design can touch every aspect of existence, yeah? Internally, mentally, externally in the world. We're designing our behavior in the world. Ethics is simply the recognition of the fact that a human being cannot simply do nothing in this world, yeah? We have to behave in some way. We have to move. Even if you just have to wake up in the morning and go to the toilet, you have to behave in some way. And then ethics comes straight in with that, and design comes straight in with that, and creativity. But if these become kind of buzzwords and things we get too stuck on, the real invisible work gets lost, yeah? And so I think secrecy is a very important quality. Yeah.
So, but is it okay if we meet once a year and just talk a little bit before we go out and being secret?
There's no such thing as secret secrecy, yeah? It's like the door to the invisible has to be visible, yeah? But we have to enter into the invisible, yeah?
Are you ready to enter into the invisible? I like where this is moving. I'm just thinking, what if the governments don't know that it's actually us who run them? I mean, maybe then they don't know about what's going on.
Wow.
Wow.
Come the revolution, we'll all be free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it anyone else who would like to reflect on how big we can make it or should make it now when we're invisible?
So you know the first rule, you should not talk about it. The second rule, you should not talk about it.
You're talking about it.
I think on a serious point, I think great service design and design in general is subtle. It's done, this person makes the point around government and election period. Politics versus change is always incredibly difficult. But I think if you share with the people what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve, then subtle design by stages, in my view, makes a difference. But it's all about, the secrecy, and there's also communication, which seem to be contradictory, but communicating what we're going to do and why it's important, but also what your role is critical. Critical.
Yeah. Could we make governments more brave?
Sure, I think so. I wish I were smart enough to answer that. The question that's on there, but I think it has something to do with a little bit of ego, being able to retract from ego, and making the playing field a little bit more available for a solution that fits rather than a solution that fits that person, so to speak. That's how I see it, because it is a difficult task within those tight time frames for someone who's tasked to bring about a change in a certain way at a certain time period. And they start where they start. They end up where they end up. It's difficult.
It's challenging.
Very challenging.